Everyone stood still, frozen in fear in the classroom. Near the teacher's desk, Caleb lay sprawled on the floor with blood pooling from his head. What happened here? Eli's voice cut through the tense silence. Should never be mentioned. We must take this secret to our graves. Grace stood frozen, her back pressed against the whiteboard. Her hands were trembling so violently that the marker she was holding clattered to the floor, a sharp sound that made Noah jump. Noah was in the corner, hyperventilating, clutching his chest as if trying to manually force his heart to keep a rhythm. He's not moving, Noah wheezed, his eyes wide and wet. Eli, he's not moving. We have to call 911. We have to. Shut up, Eli snapped. He stepped over Caleb's outstretched hand. He grabbed Noah by the collar of his varsity jacket and slammed him against the lockers. You call 911 and what happens? They find the stolen exam papers in Caleb's bag. The ones you helped me copy. Then they look at the bruise on his chest where you shoved him. I didn't mean to. Noah sobbed. He was going to expose us. It doesn't matter. Eli turned his gaze back to Grace. His eyes were cold, devoid of the panic that was eating Grace alive. And you, Grace, the scholarship girl, the charity case. You think the board will care that you didn't touch him? You were here. You're an accomplice. Your full ride to Stanford? Gone. Your future? Over. You'll be scrubbing floors like your mother for the rest of your life. The threat hit her like a sniper shot. Grace felt the air leave her lungs. She looked at Caleb, the boy who had just wanted to do the right thing, and then she looked at the clock on the wall. Tick, tock. It was an old analog clock, black rim, white face. It read 9:42 p.m. Grace, Eli said, softer now, a serpentine whisper. Help me with the legs. She didn't want to move. Every neuron in her brain was screaming run. But the fear of the future, the terrifying fragility of the life she had built, anchored her feet. Slowly, like a puppet with tangled strings, she moved forward. She grabbed Caleb's ankles. They were still warm. The drive to the nearby beach was silent. Noah's knuckles were white on the steering wheel as he sobbed quietly. In the back seat, Eli sat with the tarp-wrapped bundle that used to be their classmate. Grace sat in the passenger seat, staring at her reflection in the side mirror, unable to recognize the girl looking back. The storm had rolled calm when they arrived at the beach. The wind whipped Grace's hair across her face, stinging her eyes, blinding her. They all joined hands to lift the body from the trunk of the car. On 3, Eli shouted. 1, 2, 3. They shoved the body into the sea. There was no cinematic splash, just a dark thud as the body hit the churning water below, followed immediately by a wave that swallowed it whole. It's done, Eli said, wiping his wet hands on his jeans. He looked at Noah, then Grace. It never happened. We never saw him this night. That is our story. Who is there? A voice suddenly boomed over the rain. They did not even care to know who it was. They jumped into their car and zoomed off before the figure could come any closer. The next day the school was busy with its usual activities like nothing had happened yesterday. Grace sat at her desk biting her nails. She couldn't even get any sleep last night. Caleb's face kept on popping in her mind. She stared at the empty seat in the second row. Caleb's desk. Other students walked past it, tossed bags near it, laughed around it. They didn't know someone had died there hours ago. All right, settle down, Mr. Henderson said, walking in with his coffee mug. He tapped a stack of papers on his desk. Let's get attendance out of the way so we can discuss the midterms. He began reading names. Adams? Here. Baker? Here. Grace's heart hammered against her ribs. She glanced at Eli, who was 2 rows away. He was calmly scrolling on his phone. Noah, sitting behind Grace, was tapping his foot so hard it was shaking her chair. Davis. Mr. Henderson called out. Here. Noah squeaked, his voice cracking. Hey, here, Grace said. Her voice sounded hollow, like it was coming from someone else. Miller. There was complete silence. Mr. Henderson looked up from his clipboard, scanning the room. His eyes landed on the empty desk. Has anyone seen Caleb today? The silence stretched on. I think he mentioned something about feeling sick yesterday, Eli said smoothly, not even looking up from his phone. Mr. Henderson frowned, marking something on his sheet. Well, let's hope he feels better. He turned to the whiteboard and picked up a marker. But suddenly the sound of the marker sounded louder in Grace's head. Grace flinched as she whipped her head around. No one else reacted. Crunch. There it was again. Louder this time. Grace looked at Noah. He was pale, eyes locked on something at the front of the room. She followed his gaze. He wasn't looking at the empty desk. He was looking at the clock, the analog clock above the whiteboard. except that it wasn't ticking. Grace squinted. The second hand wasn't moving forward. It was twitching between the 12 and the 1. Each twitch echoed inside her skull. Then, the second hand began to move backwards. From 12 to 11. Grace rubbed her eyes, blaming it on lack of sleep. She looked again. 11 to 10. The room began to dim around her. Grace stared at the clock face. The numbers 1, 2, 3 began to run. The ink bled, dripping down the white surface like black tears. But instead of dripping away, they pooled. Reshaped. The number 12 dissolved, forming a letter. C. Then 11 formed O, and so on. Her mouth fell wide open when she could make sense of the word. Confess. Grace gasped. The sound cracked the silence like a gunshot. Miss Hayes. Mr. Henderson's voice boomed, shattering the spell. The world snapped back. Bright sunlight. Clear air. Ordinary noise. Grace looked at the clock. Normal. 8:15 a.m. Just numbers. Are you all right? Mr. Henderson asked, concern in his eyes. You look like you've seen a ghost. Aye. Grace swallowed hard. She could feel Eli's stare. I'm fine. Just didn't sleep well. Right, he said, turning back to the board. Grace looked down. Her hands trembled over her torn notebook page. She forced herself to glance at the clock again. It was completely normal. Throughout the class, Noah felt like he couldn't breathe. The air in the hallway felt thick. Noah pushed past a group of freshmen, ignoring their complaints, and shoved open the boys' bathroom door on the second floor. He was relieved that it was completely empty. He stumbled to the sink, gripping it so tight his knuckles turned white. His reflection stared back at him, eyes bloodshot and his skin pale. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. He hadn't slept in one, but it felt like a lifetime. He turned the faucet on. Cold water burst out. Noah shoved his hands under the stream, scrubbing his face hard. He suddenly began to hear a ticking sound. Noah froze and slowly turned the water off. Tick, tock. He lifted his head slowly up to the mirror. Something was wrong. The reflection behind him wasn't lit anymore. It was dark, swallowed by shadow. Water began to run again from the tap, even though he had just turned it off. But this time the water was red. Noah yanked his hands away but stumbled backward, feet skidding on the tile, and hit the wall hard before sliding to the floor. Noah! The voice came from the drain. Wet, gurgling, as if someone was speaking through a mouthful of water. Noah! I'm so cold. No, Noah whispered, pressing his hands over his ears. You're dead. You're gone. Help me, Noah, the voice bubbled. How could you do this to me? The ticking grew louder. It was hammering inside his skull. The stall door creaked open. Noah screamed. The bathroom door flew wide. Eli stood in the doorway, light spilling around him. He saw everything. Noah on the floor, drenched, screaming at a sink running clear water. Eli didn't hesitate. He crossed the room in 2 steps, grabbed Noah by the hair, and yanked him upright. Shut up, Eli hissed, clapping a hand over his mouth. What do you think you're doing, you idiot? He's in the pipes. Noah gasped against his palm, shaking. He's in the water. There is no one here. Eli shoved him against the wall. Look, it's water. Just water. He forced Noah's head toward the sink. The water was clear and the drain silent. You're breaking, Eli whispered, his face inches away. And if you break and expose me, Noah, his voice dropped dark and quiet. I won't need a ghost to hurt you. Noah sagged, tears mixing with the water on his face. Meet me in the boiler room. 4th period. Bring Grace, Eli said coldly before leaving. The boiler room was the heart of the school. It was a maze of pipes and steam, the air thick with the smell of oil and rust. The noise down there was constant and heavy, the perfect place to hide a conversation, or a scream. Grace was already there, sitting on an overturned bucket, hugging her backpack to her chest. When Eli and Noah entered, she didn't look up. Did anyone see you? Eli asked, bolting the heavy steel door. No, Grace murmured. Good. He started pacing. Noah's hearing things. You've been staring at walls. It's been 24 hours and you two are already falling apart. His voice sharpened. We need to pull it together unless we will get caught. Anything you're seeing, it's all in your heads. It's not in our heads, Grace said quietly. She unzipped her backpack. Grace, what are you doing? Eli stopped pacing. She pulled something out, and both boys froze. It was the clock from the classroom. Noah flinched like she'd drawn a knife. Why do you have that? Why would you bring that here? I went back during lunch, Grace said. Her voice trembled. The room was empty. I had to take it. It felt like it was calling me. You stole it, Eli snapped. Are you out of your mind? Look at it, Eli, she shouted, thrusting it toward him. He stopped. The back of the clock was open, no battery. No cord. Nothing. He turned it over. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The second hand was moving, but not forward, not backward. It was bending, curling inward toward the center pin, then snapping back out to strike the glass. Clack, clack. How is it doing that? Noah whispered, backing into a hot pipe. There's no power. It doesn't need power, Grace said, tears streaming down her face. It's him. It's Caleb. Shut up. Eli barked, grabbing the clock from her. It's a trick. A magnetic coil, static discharge, something. It's counting down, Grace said. Don't you feel it? I am done with this, he roared. Eli grabbed the clock. He raised it high over his head. Eli, don't! Grace cried out, sensing something wrong. Don't touch it. Eli brought the wrench down with all his strength. Smash! The plastic face shattered, but there were no gears inside. No springs. There's nothing inside, Noah whispered, voice trembling. It's empty. Eli! Eli stared down at the remains, then let out a short, bitter laugh. Exactly. Imagine this empty shell haunting us. He bent down, gathered the broken pieces into a pile, and reached into his jacket pocket. His fingers came out holding a matchbox. He struck the match. FSSHH. The tiny flame flickered to life, trembling like a heartbeat. Eli's eyes glowed with its reflection. We end it now. No more voices. No more ghosts. He dropped the match onto the shattered clock. The fire caught instantly and the pile burst into bright orange, burning hotter than it should have. The metal rim twisted, warping in the heat, and a thick black smoke rose into the air. The smoke was still curling toward the ceiling when the school bell suddenly rang. All three of them jumped. The sound tore through the boiler room like a siren. Eli cursed under his breath. What now? Over the intercom, the principal's voice crackled. All students report to the auditorium immediately. This is an emergency assembly. Grace's heart pounded. She could still taste the smoke in her mouth. The fire was dying down, leaving only a mess of black ash and twisted metal. Leave it, Eli said quickly, grabbing Noah's arm. We can't be seen down here. They hurried out and Grace looked back just once, and swore she saw something move in the ashes. When they reached the auditorium, the room was already packed. The sound of murmuring students filled the air. Teachers stood by the doors, ushering everyone in. Grace sat between Eli and Noah near the back, still trembling. Her fingers were cold. Her mind wouldn't stop replaying the image of that bending clock hand. Her gaze drifted up toward the wide wall above the stage. And then her blood turned to ice. There, hanging in full view of the entire school, was the same clock. The same black-rimmed, white-faced clock they had burned minutes ago. Her breath caught in her throat. No! She grabbed Eli's sleeve, her hand shaking. Eli, I'll look. Look up. He frowned, following her gaze. The moment his eyes landed on it, all the color drained from his face. Noah leaned forward, his voice cracking. That's impossible. We burned it. Grace's nails dug into her palm. Her entire body shivered as her eyes locked on the second hand. It wasn't moving forward. It was twitching. Clack, clack, clack. Principal Vance walked onto the stage. He adjusted the microphone. Screech. Feedback whined through the speakers, piercing and painful. The student body groaned, hands flying to ears. Sorry, Vance muttered. Technical difficulties. The three students glanced back at the clock, and it began to tick like a normal clock. Principal Vance tapped the microphone. The screech that followed wasn't normal feedback. It tore through the air like metal grinding against bone. It deepened, thickening into a low, guttural vibration that rattled the walls and the bones inside everyone's chest. Turn it off, someone yelled from the back. But before anyone could move, the main lights snapped off. Darkness swallowed the auditorium. A second later, the heavy exit doors slammed shut with a deafening boom, locking the screams inside. Gasps and frightened voices rose everywhere. Someone tried their phone, but there was no signal. A single glow from the stage. The projector flickered to life, displaying a clock on the giant screen. Its hands froze at 9:42 p.m., and beneath it, red digital numbers began to count down. 10, 9:59, 9:58. The room trembled as a voice filled the air. Not through the speakers, it was from everywhere. Confess. It was wet, distorted, like words bubbling up through water. Students screamed. Chairs scraped. The teachers shouted for calm, but their voices broke under the weight of that sound. A spotlight snapped on, cutting through the black. It stopped on three figures, Grace, Eli, and Noah, frozen in the harsh circle of light. Caleb's voice thundered again. You have 10 minutes. Confess, or your friends die. One by one, until everyone in this room is dead. The countdown ticked, 9. In the front row, a boy gasped. His hands clutched his throat, as if something invisible was choking him. He convulsed once, twice, then slumped forward, motionless. The auditorium erupted. Screams bounced off the walls. Some students ran for the doors, pounding and crying. Others crouched low, praying, whispering. The noise rose like a storm. Grace's voice cut through it. He's doing it. He's really doing it. She grabbed Eli's arm, shaking him. We have to stop it. We have to confess. That is the only way to stop this. Grace, don't, Eli hissed. It was US, she shouted, her voice breaking. We. Eli snapped. He grabbed her wrist and yanked her back down. Shut up, he growled, his face twisted with fear and fury. She struggled, clawing at him. I won't let you kill them. I won't. The clock hit 8. Another scream. Then another. 3 more bodies collapsed near the aisles. The floor was chaos, students tripping, sobbing, trying to drag their friends out. Grace was still fighting him, shouting, It's our fault. He's punishing us. Grace was about to rush to the stage to confess when Eli's jaw clenched, and with one brutal blow, he drove his elbow into her temple. The crack was sharp. Grace went limp. Her head fell against the seat. Noah froze, staring. Eli! The countdown kept falling. 7, 6. Students were dying every few seconds now, their bodies collapsing like marionettes with cut strings. The smell of fear and sweat filled the air. Eli's face was stone, his eyes empty. He won't stop, he muttered. He wants us broken. Don't give him the satisfaction. Noah's voice trembled. You'd let them all die. Eli did not answer, but just stared at him coldly. Something inside Noah snapped. His body shook, not from fear, but from something deeper. Rage. Guilt. If he did not stop Eli, he would let everyone in the room die. You're a monster, he whispered. Then louder. You're a monster. Noah lunged. They crashed into each other, chairs splintering under their weight. Students screamed and scrambled back. Eli fought back, punching, grabbing, but Noah's desperation was wild and raw. He slammed Eli into the ground, knocking the breath out of him. Eli gasped and tried reaching for him, but Noah was already running. He bolted down the aisle, leaping over fallen bodies, his shoes slipping on the polished floor. The red glow of the countdown burned on the screen. 2 more minutes and they would all be dead. He climbed onto the stage, breathless, hands shaking, and grabbed the microphone. Stop! Noah screamed, his voice cracking through the static. Stop it, please. The countdown flickered, 1:35. Tears streaked down his face as he shouted into the mic. It was US. We killed Caleb. I pushed him. Eli made us hide the body. We did it. It was an accident. Please stop. The numbers froze at 1 minute. The gurgling sound stopped. The voice went silent. Then, the spotlight blinked off. Click. The doors unlocked with a long, metallic sigh that echoed through the silence. Then the harsh, white, and shaking as the overhead bulbs flickered back to life. No one moved. The air was thick, heavy, filled with the stench of fear and blood. The only sound was Noah's breathing, rough and uneven, catching in his throat like he was drowning in it. He lowered the microphone slowly, his fingers trembling. Then he looked around. Bodies. Everywhere. Rows of students slumped over the seats, their faces pale, their eyes open but lifeless. Others were sprawled in the aisles, limbs tangled, shoes missing, notebooks scattered like debris after a storm. The sound system crackled once, then died, leaving only the soft hum of the projector behind him. Grace was still in her seat, unmoving. A dark streak of blood ran down from her temple. Eli stirred nearby, pushing himself up on shaking arms, his eyes wide and empty. Noah's knees gave out, and he sank to the floor as he heard the sound of approaching sirens. It was over. He sank onto the stage, the microphone rolling from his hand and clattering to the floor.